Let's be real, you don't really hate content creation. What you do hate is how much time it steals from your day to day. And then when it gets to the edit, how much time that sinks and how bloody impossible it is to stay consistent. And then how awful it feels when you drop off and how we seem to spend hours on a single piece of content that then flops. And then how the bloody hell do we know what to post? Sound familiar? Perfect, because that is exactly what we are fixing today. This is, my friends, your fall back in love with content creation era. Yes, today I am going to be attempting to do the impossible. What we're going to be doing today is breaking down the 5 very real, very valid reasons that most people fall out of love with content creation. And I'm going to be giving you a fix to every single one of these. So if you've said any of these 5 things, I got you. How long it takes to create content, how much longer the edit takes, trust me. How hard it is to stay consistent, what to do when you are posting and everything is flopping, and how hard it is when you don't know what the heck to post. And I'm going to be showing you how to fix every single one of those. Yeah, big promise today, game face on. Let's start falling back in love with content creation again. Welcome to your lover era. Okay, reason number 1 why you have fallen out of love with content creation is probably how much time it takes. And trust me, I feel you. I'm coming to you as somebody who has a podcast, a YouTube channel, a content studio, a membership, a live course, somebody who is trying to go to the gym and stay healthy and see my friends and have a social life. Listen, we are very time poor over here. So to add content creation into that too feels impossible, right? And you want to know something? I managed to fit it in. I normally manage to get out between 1 to 3 pieces of content per week, and I have done pretty consistently since 2021. Now, we do not mean that as a humble brag. I mean that to show you that it's possible. If you are sitting there and think that you do not have time, I guarantee you do. But before we get to the how, before I teach you how to do it, how to get that time, I'm about to say potentially the most groundbreaking thing of this training. Content takes hours because there is no clear start or finish line. Let me ask you something, especially you guys who have worked in corporate before. When you work in a corporate environment and your boss gives you a task to do, if you spent 6 hours on that task, that small kind of easy task, would you get into trouble? You probably would, right? Unless you were new, unless you were learning the ropes, you would probably get into trouble if you spent 6 to 9 hours on a single task. Yet why are we doing that in our own businesses? We call it a full content day, right? Like we sit down and we're like, I'm going to create content all day today. But if you actually tracked the creative minutes, there's actually only about 45 productive creative minutes in there, because this is what content creation looks like to most people. We sit down at our desk and then we decide we need to tidy our desk, and then wait, we're not camera ready, so we go and put on an outfit and do our hair and do our makeup, and then we come back and we set up our tripod and then we set up our lights, and then wait, we don't have a script, right? So then we have to go and write a script with a hook, and then we come to finally filming it and we hate what we've created because we've spent so long doing all the other stuff, we're not in flow state anymore. So then we film something and then we re-film something, and then we come to editing it straight away, and then we hate the edit, and then we never post it, and it never sees the light of day, and we have spent a whole day doing that. When people say I don't have time to create content, what they normally actually mean is I don't have any boundaries, any time boundaries around my content. There is no timer, there is no clear set process, there is no cutoff point. You just kind of wing it, right? So before we talk about hacks, or before I tell you the how, I want you to admit something out loud. If I'm talking to you, if you feel seen right now, I want you to put it in the comments below. Repeat after me. The reason that content takes forever is because I have not told it how long it's allowed to take. You, as the boss, have not set you, as the employee, up for success. And most creators, most of you guys, you're not burning out from output. You are burnt out from inefficiency. What we need to do together today is rebuild your rhythm from scratch and start making sure that the minutes that you're putting into content creation are actually being used well. So what I'm going to be doing today is giving you 2 solutions for every problem, for the type A girlies, but also for my type B queens, because one solution doesn't fit all. So let's get to it. How do we solve this time problem? I'm a type A queen, and I'm going to be sharing with you the routine that I have personally used myself for the last 4 or 5 years. Now, to me, content creation is split into 4 major blocks or categories. Block number 1 is ideation and scripting. Block number 2 is filming. Block number 3 is editing. And block number 4 is posting or scheduling. Those 4 categories are what I call my time blocks. Time blocking is literally the act of taking tasks and putting them into a block, and then putting that block into your calendar somewhere. You might also hear me say the word batching in this video. Batching is taking that time block and making multiple pieces of content within that time block. Now, I have two major time blocks for filming, and these happen on Mondays and Tuesdays. On Mondays, I will have a giant filming block for YouTube. Then on Tuesdays, I have a much smaller time block for my reels and social content. Now, on Mondays, we cannot batch multiple YouTube videos, so I only film one video on Mondays. But on Tuesdays, I will batch together between 4 to 6 reels in that block. Now, here is the issue that most people are running into when it comes to content creation. What they will try and do is when they've got their content day or their content block, they will try and do all of those things in that block. They will create the content, they will scroll for ideas, they will script, they will edit, they will try and do it all within one block. And if that's you, if that is you, you are doing too much, bestie. Now, instead, what I want you to do is just try this. This has been working for me for literal years. My brain loves to work in blocks. But I want you to make all of those steps around content creation a block. So you will have one block for coming up with ideas and scripting them. Then you will have one entire block for just filming. Then you will have another block for editing what you filmed. And then finally, you will have one very small block for posting or scheduling that content. And the key here, the key thing that I want you to remember is that you are the boss. Therefore, you need to make time constraints for your employee, also you. So let me walk you through my blocks and exactly what I do within them. Let's start with ideation and scripting. Now, this happens every single Monday. I will have a very small block in my calendar to come up with ideas and to script together the content that I want to film that week. For me, ideation, I give myself 10 minutes to do this. This is called my 10-minute daily business scrolly scroll. And in all honesty, the reason that I keep it to 10 minutes is because your feed is not where creativity thrives. For me, I just like to do like a 10-minute scroll to kind of keep a finger on the pulse of the industry, to kind of know what's trending, what's cool, what's not cool, just to kind of know what's going on. But genuinely, your best ideas are not going to live inside your timeline. So what I would do in that 10 minutes is I will literally scroll the Reels tab, or I will scroll TikTok, and I will literally bookmark audios that I want to use later or ideas that I would have a unique spin on. And I will literally bookmark these inside Instagram so that when it comes to plotting and planning out the content that I want to film, I have got a little bank of ideas inside my bookmark. Now, I will only spend 10 minutes actually scrolling in my feed. The next thing that I do inside my ideation block is I will plan out the content that I want to film that week. I will literally go back through my bookmarks and try and figure out like 4 to 6 ideas that I would like to film that week. But one thing that I also want you guys to bear in mind is to not just rely on your feed to come up with content ideas. The best content ideas will come from you and your own brain based on your unique audience. One thing you need to remember when you're on social media is you are physically in an algorithm. You are being served things that you like. Remember, we are not necessarily our ideal client, our ideal follower. In some cases, we might not be the audience that we are trying to attract. So just remember in this block, when you're physically coming up with the ideas, to come back to your person and what would they like to see from you. If you know your who, which we worked out in this episode here, content ideas shouldn't be too much of a problem. Now, this is probably the biggest part of my ideation block, is actually scripting out these 6 videos. Finding a hook and figuring out what I want to wear and the format that I want to use. So I give myself a really strict cutoff, and I will only spend a max of 45 minutes doing this. Any longer than that, and my boss, me, is going to get annoyed. So overall, my ideation and scripting block takes around 1 hour, no more. If for whatever reason I have only scripted out 3 videos, I will only film 3 videos. Now, the second major block that I have is my filming block, and I will do this separately from the ideation and scripting block, normally on a different day. So for me, my filming days are Tuesdays. And for my filming block, I normally have around 4 hours reserved for it. This includes my getting ready, so this will include my hair and makeup, which normally takes about an hour. And that gives me around 3 hours to film 4 to 6 reels. Honestly, if I'm being really honest with you guys, I normally get it done in less time than this, because if you have scripted it all out, there really isn't much to do but to just get up on camera and do the damn thing. The biggest mistake that I see people making in their filming block is they are also trying to create ideas and plan and script. If you do those two completely separately, you are going to feel so much less stressed. Now, some things that I do inside my filming block is I definitely turn my phone onto do not disturb. I don't know about you guys, but for me, filming requires like energy. It requires me to be in a certain state. So I will do whatever necessary to keep myself in that state, and things that are going to knock me out of that state, notifications. 4 hours on do not disturb is not going to kill you. Nothing is going to happen in that. And if people call you, I think it's twice, it will come through to your phone. So if it's an emergency, you can still be contactable. Now, the second thing that I do is I do not review my clips. Nothing is going to knock me out of flow state quicker than me getting annoyed at myself because I am not getting things right. So if I make a mistake, if I trip up on my words, I just go back to the beginning of the sentence and I start again. One big tip that I have is it sometimes takes like 5 or 10 minutes for you to get used to being on camera. Like for example, this one here, I actually filmed the intro to this 3 or 4 times, and then I felt, yes, I'm ready for filming now. I'm not tripping over my words. So sometimes what I allow myself is just a bit of grace, 10 to 15 minutes for me to go over the script and just get used to being on camera again. Let me tell you what we're not doing in this block. We are not scripting. We are not scrolling. We're not coming up with a hook. We have done all that in the block previously. If you finish this block right here, you have now beaten more than 90% of creators. Now, block number 3 is the editing block, and I will normally do this straight after the filming block. So I will have 2 blocks in my calendar side by side. The main reason that I do this is because I like to get it done pretty ASAP. And for me, I can edit when I'm kind of in a lower vibe, lower energy state. So what I like to do is film in the morning and early afternoon when I have tons of energy, and then I will edit in the late afternoon when I'm feeling a little bit blah. Again, key thing here is to have a time constraint. So I will try and make sure that I have done all of my editing within 1 to 2 hours. Problems happen when you give yourself like 6 hours to edit. If you give yourself 6 hours, you're going to take 6 hours. Now, don't worry, we have got a whole editing section coming up, so we're going to be coming back to her. But this is how I do it, is I have an editing block straight after my filming block. Finally, we have our posting and our scheduling block. And this one here, I normally do at the end of my week. It is literally me taking my finished edited product that I've worked so hard on and either scheduling it in a scheduling app or physically posting it live in the moment if I want to. We're going to get to more on that later. I have a whole segment where I'm going to show you exactly how I schedule my content, but this is the block where I do that. And for me, this right here, these time blocks, this is the reason that I am never stressed about content creation. How good would it feel to you guys if you had an entire content bank that you could lean on? Wouldn't that make you love content creation just a little bit more? Good. Then what I'm going to say for my type A girlies is to give this a try and create some time blocks and start sticking to and batching your content within those blocks. However, for my type B girlies, I have not forgotten about you. If you're a little bit more of an intuitive creator, this is what I would suggest. Structure for you guys suffocates you. The way that I think a lot of type B girls work is that they can only create when they're in the mood to create, like when they're feeling creative. You can't just get up and film because a calendar is telling you to. What I want you to do, and this has been really groundbreaking for me to be honest, is to keep an energy diary over the course of like 28 days to a month. And just note down when you are high energy and when you are low energy. This enabled me to identify when I'm at my highest and most creative, therefore my best times to film, and when I'm feeling a little bit low, a little bit sluggish, and when are the best times to edit. If you're able to identify your high energy periods and your low energy periods, you can start to allocate work and tasks and blocks to those times where you know you're going to be feeling high vibe and creative, or when you're going to be feeling a little bit low vibe and you want to do a low vibe kind of task. What I identified in myself when I did this is that actually I never knew this, but I'm a morning person. So I'm at my most highest energy and highest vibe between 9 and 3. So what I do is I actually dedicate those hours of the day to the times where I need to pull into my high energy, aka filming, aka presenting, teaching my membership, all of those tasks. I will try and do that when I'm in my high energy. Anything that requires me to be really, really switched on, really, really creative, I will put that in my high energy time blocks. Kind of 3 p.m. and onwards is when I'm in my low energy. So in these hours, I will do things like reply to emails. Listen, don't have to be in a high vibe state to reply to your emails. Literally a 17-year-old can do that. What I will also do is I will edit in those times, because to me, editing is one of these kind of brainless tasks. I don't need to be super switched on to be cutting and editing. I can just like snuggle on the sofa and get in my cozies and just have my laptop on me and squirrel away on an edit. And honestly, honestly, one thing that has just changed the way that I work is being able to tap into these high energy times and these low energy times and assign tasks depending on what energy I need to be in. Now, the next thing that I would do is also keep a diary of your cycle. Just note the times of the month where you feel a little bit more creative, a little bit more happy, a little bit more happier to be on camera. So really look at your calendar, especially if you're a type B intuitive girly, and make a note of these things. Instead of putting structure in the format of blocks and batches, you're going to put structure in the format of your energy and working with your natural creativity. And hear this, the solution isn't actually finding more time. By doing this, we're not actually gaining more time, we're just using the time that we have more productively. I want you to pick your path, time block it or vibe block it, whatever one you fancy. I want you to try it for just 28 days. 28 days is a really good amount of time to see where you're vibing with it. Don't give it 2 days and then be like, nope, this ain't for me, because you need to give it just a little bit longer than that. But the main thing is I want you to respect the finish line. Done means done. And if you haven't got it done at the end of that time constraint, don't sweat it, just move on. Okay, let's move on to reason number 2 why most of us fall out of love with content creation. And that is the edit and how long that takes. It takes forever sometimes, and it's not even just that it's like the technical side of things. Editing feels heavy. And one interesting observation I've had around editing, it's at the point in the journey where creativity meets perfectionism, and that is a really dangerous point to be in. What I find happens to most of us, myself included, is that we film something good and then we put it in our editing software, and our brain, it switches from artist to critic. And it's that messy part of the content creation journey where we start second guessing everything. Now again, with this one, it is another case of you are working as an employee without a boss. You are editing without time constraints. And I know this one all too well. If you give yourselves 9 hours to edit a video together, your brain, you will take 9 hours to edit the video. If you give yourselves 45 minutes to edit the video, guess what you're going to do? You're going to edit it in 45 minutes. Realistically, short form content, if you're not creating long form like this, short form content shouldn't be taking you a whole day to edit. Unless you're doing like super cinematic content and things like that. Realistically, you should be able to edit your 5 or 6 videos together in a couple of hours. Now, in this section, we are not going to be talking editing tips or editing hacks or anything like that. What I want to introduce you to is editing systems. A system that is either going to simplify the process or change your relationship with editing. The goal here, and I don't want to get it twisted, the goal here is to not make you a better editor. That's a lot of pressure. The goal here is to make editing feel lightweight so that you actually enjoy it more. My type A girls, and I say this from full experience, you probably have folders everywhere and drives and templates, and you are drowning in footage. And editing to you guys, I don't know if it feels this way to you, but to me, editing feels like a full-time job because it's just never quite perfect enough. So what we want to do is we want to systemize it so it becomes impossible to overthink. So I'm going to introduce you to the 90-30 framework. This is your boss. Imagine I am your boss right now talking to you, okay? I want you to pick an editor, just one, pick one editing software. It doesn't matter which one, they all do the same thing. Next, I want you to give yourself an overall time frame of how much time you're going to be spending a week on editing. It really depends on how much content you have, so you kind of have to decide this, but give yourself a time frame. Let's just say per piece of content, you're going to give yourself 30 minutes. Unless it's long form. Listen, we ain't talking about long form. Long form is a completely different beast. But short form content, reels, TikToks, give yourself a max of 20 to 30 minutes per video. And here's the tricky part. No exceptions. You just put a timer on and you stick to that time constraint. Whatever you are left with is the finished product. Short form content is frivolous, has an expiry date. It literally lasts only about like max 2 weeks on a platform. So you do not want to be putting more than 20 to 30 minutes work for something that just doesn't last. Sounds scary, right? But listen, hear this. You are not Christopher Nolan. I am not Christopher Nolan. We are not creating an Oscar award-winning movie here. We are creating short form content, and short form content has a really short shelf life. Only unless editing is one of the main pillars of your brand and you want to be known for super slick, super sharp editing. Unless that's your thing, the rest doesn't have to be. So literally just give every single piece of content a time constraint. But I think the biggest tip that I have for my type A queens is to really lean on and utilize that editing block. Set editing to specific days. So for me, I'm only editing on Mondays or Tuesdays directly after I have filmed. Contain your editing so it doesn't leak into all the other places in your business. Stick to that editing block because it is going to serve you so well, and it's going to make it so much more manageable. For my type B queens, you're going to absolutely hate everything everything that I just said. So for you guys, we need to work a little bit more differently. A lot of intuitive workers, they will say, I edit when it feels right. But my question to you guys is, when does it feel right? When are we ever in the mood to edit? Never, right? It's one of those things that's so easy to put off if you work intuitively. So for you guys, what I would try, and personally, I do not vibe with this, but I know so many of my type B friends do, is something called the live edit method. And honestly, the people that I know that do this, they are more on it than our type A girls. What you do if you are live editing is you are normally filming in the app. So you are filming on TikTok or you are filming on Instagram, and you are editing in real time at the same time as you're filming. So what you would do is you will film one clip and then you will trim it and edit it there and then. And then you will film another clip and you will trim and edit that one. And you will add in all the text and all the captions in the moment. If you are a little bit more of an intuitive type of creative, I would try this. I know for me, it just doesn't work. I am way too type A for that. But you never know, unless you try it, you never know. You might love it, you might vibe with it. And those people that I know that are able to do this, they are so on it. They're getting out like 3 pieces of content a day. But this is not going to work for everybody. So I have an option B. And this one kind of goes for type A and type B. This is something that I very actively do. And I call this romanticizing the shit out of your editing block. For me, what I have really tried to do is reframe my mindset to make editing part of the creative process, and to help me get into that and just help me enjoy it a little bit more, I romanticize it. So I put on a really vibey playlist when I am editing. I will put on a timer, because remember, we're a boss. We're responsible for the productivity of our employee. So I will set a timer. I might light a candle. I will get myself really cozy on my sofa with loads of blankets, and I will treat it like it is a part of the creative process, like I'm creating art. And I think there's this really interesting thing that happens, especially when we are creatives, is we separate the art from the edit. But why can't the edit be part of the art? Instead of seeing it as this thing that I have to do, I see it as this thing that's like, okay, how can I improve in this? How can I make it better? How can I make this part beautiful and creative? But I think a lot of us, we romanticize the physical act of creating the art. But what if we looked at the edit as an extension of that, as a way of bringing it to life? There are so many fun ways that you can express yourself through editing. You can express yourself through fonts and through color grading, through fun, interesting transitions. Our art shouldn't end technically with the act, with the physical act of doing it. Just a little thought there. So what I would recommend, if you are not somebody who likes to edit physically whilst you're filming, I would try this and romanticize the F out of your edit. Hopefully one of those processes will help you get in your lover era a little bit more when it comes to the editing process. Which reminds me, welcome back to the Eras Tour Kaylee's version. This is episode 8 of the series, you guessed it, inspired by Taylor Swift's Eras Tour. Every single week I take an iconic album of Taylor Swift's and I give it a really unique business, branding, content creation style spin. This week we are in the lover era, in case you hadn't guessed it from my very, very jazzy heart print sweater. And I thought, what better theme than to fall back in love with content creation? And listen, you do not have to be a fan of Taylor Swift, so you don't even have to like her. If you stick around and put up with my two tiny Taylor Swift references, I guarantee you're gonna learn something that might make you some money or help you fall back in love with content creation. I wasn't actually super crazy about this album. I want some thoughts and opinions in the comments, please. I did not love Lover, but I loved the aesthetics. I loved the cotton candy sky. I loved the pinks. I was very, very sad that we didn't get Loverfest. But regardless, this is your lover era, and I hope that you're loving this training. Let's get back to it. Okay, now slight change of scenery for this part. This part I actually need to show you something on my laptop. We are going to be talking about the biggest pain point that most people have when it comes to content creation, and that is, how the F do we stay consistent? So many people fall out of love with content creation because of this part. You need stamina in the game. I see a lot of social media burnout happen, particularly when it comes to consistency, because there is no system holding you. There is no rhythm guiding you. And we learned about the rhythm in the first section. So what I want us to do in this section is rebuild that. Because I guarantee if you can nail just one thing from this training, my biggest motto is consistency always beats talent every single time. You will be unstoppable if you can be consistent. You will dominate your niche, you will be a force to be reckoned with, and I guarantee you will be happier. There will be a release of pressure if you can systemize your consistency. I want you to hear this. I don't think consistency is about discipline. I don't think consistency is something you're inherently born with. Listen, if you struggle with consistency in general, go and watch this video right here. Just because you're a Capricorn does not mean you're more consistent than a Pisces. Consistency is A, a muscle, and B, something that you learn. And the number one reason that I have been able to be so consistent over social media, over here on YouTube, on my podcast for over 200 episodes, is these two things: batching and systems. I lean on systems because guess what? I'm human. Energy fluctuates, cycles fluctuate. I want to go on holiday because I want free time. And there are two things at play here when it comes to consistency and social media. Number one, my best posting time is 5 p.m. Or I thought it was 5 p.m. More on that later. But am I free every single day at 5 p.m? No, I am not. 5 p.m. to me is peak dog walking hour. Or it's just like the end of the day. Your girl is tired at 5 p.m. She doesn't want to be on her phone at 5 p.m. And number two, quite simply, I don't want to be on Instagram at 5 p.m. every single day chained to it. And I used to, trust me, this is so embarrassing, but I used to be out with friends and I would excuse myself at like 4:55 to go to the toilet so I could post manually. I would love to post manually, but those two things stop me. So I rely on systems so that I do not have to post manually, so I do not have to be sitting on my phone every day at 5 p.m. Which brings me to the sponsor and the partner of today's video, which is Planoly. And like, if you know me, if you have been in my communities, you will know that I have used Planoly and paid for Planoly for years. The receipts are here. So it is a literal dream that Planoly are working with me on today's video, and I want to show you exactly how I've been using them for years to schedule my content so that I do not have to post it so manually. Now, if you're wondering what the heck Planoly is a social media scheduling tool. And in my opinion, the cutest one. It's just for the girls that get it, okay? It's for the girls that get it. On top of all that, it is definitely for my visual queens, because one of the main reasons that I actually started using Planoly in the first place is it gives you a visual look at your grid, so you can integrate your new content seamlessly. I'm going to show my type A and type B queens how to use Planoly because I think it can serve you both. Now, remember those time blocks that we built together earlier? Well, your post time block is also your scheduling time block. This is the time where we schedule all of our content. Okay, now once you have uploaded all of your content into Planoly, let me show you around. Now, on your left-hand side, you will see all of your content that you just uploaded. All unscheduled content is marked with a U. All scheduled content is marked with an S, and any content that has already gone out is marked with your analytics. So it's really, really easy to use. One of the reasons that I actually signed up for and paid for Planoly in the first place was how visual it is and how you can plan out your grid. You can see here, just by simply dragging and dropping your content, you can create the feel and the visual look of your grid. This will really, really matter to my aesthetic queens out there. For me, I don't like too much texty posts next to each other, so I just make sure that I break those posts up, but I really, really love that I can visually see it and visually plan it out. Now, over here on the right-hand side, you will get a calendar look, so you can see all of your posts and when they are going out, and you might notice here there are 3 slots. These are actually your optimal posting times that Planoly has given to you. Now, earlier on, you might remember me saying that I thought mine was 5 p.m. Well, it actually turns out Planoly has worked out for me that it is between 6 and 8 p.m. So I have now been posting at 7 p.m. with much greater success. Let me show you how easy it is to schedule your content. You're not going to believe this. All you do is you take your content and you drag it to one of those slots. So let's just say I want this content going out on the 21st at 7 p.m. I would simply just drag it over to that slot, and here we go. It will start to schedule that post for you. In this view here, you can pre-write your caption, you can add your tags, your hashtags, everything like that. The main thing to be aware of is this toggle right here, auto post to Instagram. You just want to make sure that that is turned on if you want Planoly whizzing this out on your behalf. If you don't, you just turn that toggle off and Planoly will instead message you and remind you to post it. I absolutely love that feature because if you still want to be a manual posting girly, it gives you a little reminder. Once you've got your caption and your tags in place, all you do is hit save, make sure that toggle is on, and Planoly is going to whiz that out for you. No need for you to be sitting on Instagram. You can see here, now that is marked with an S, so I can see all of my scheduled content and how far in advance I'm scheduled up to. Just for a second, I want you guys to imagine, how would you feel if you had a month of content going out? It would feel pretty good, right? And that there is just one of the amazing ways that you can use Planoly. That is not even touching the surface. You can also analyze your analytics here. There is just so much that Planoly can do for you, but I absolutely love their scheduling tool and have used it for absolutely years. Genuinely, even if Planoly were not sponsoring this video, this section would have remained the same because this is a process that I have done hundreds of times. Now for my type B queens, there is still room for you over here at Planoly. So we're going to use Planoly a little bit differently. We're going to use it as your creative vision board. What I want you you to do is exactly the same. I want you to go into Planoly and dump all of your clips, all of your content, all of your edited content into their media library. Everything you've worked on, everything you've edited, just get it in here. Now, once a week, what I want you to do is I want you to open up Planoly and I just want you to plan out your grid until it feels balanced, until it feels exactly how you want it to feel. What you're going to be using Planoly for is your hub to keep all of your content organized and give it a place to live, so to speak. Sometimes I do this too. Even though I'm type A, sometimes I do like to manually post in the moment, but I like it to live somewhere because I don't know about you. If it doesn't live somewhere, it gets lost in my camera roll. And then what I want you to do is if something excites you, I want you to schedule it. I want you to post it right there and then in the moment. If you made it this far, you might as well. You're literally here. You're literally 2 clicks away from scheduling. So you might as well try that on for size and see how it fits. Planoly isn't about structure or feeling tied down to those blocks we made earlier. It's about clarity. This is a hub for your content. It gives your ideas somewhere to live, somewhere to be stored until you're ready to share them. What I find with my type B queens they like to do is they like to write captions when they're in the mood and when they're in the creative energy for that. So this is something that you could definitely incorporate, is just jumping into Planoly as and when you want to and writing your captions. So there are 2 ways that you can use Planoly. And of course, if you still want to be a manually posting queen, you can be. But listen, if you're sick of not being consistent, this is the fix. This is the fix, bestie. You do want to try Planoly, they have very, very kindly given me a code. Feel free to use the code ByKatie30 that is on the screen right now or in the description box below to get 30% off of one of your Planoly plans. There is a reason why I have used her for so long. She is for the girls. She's for the visual queens. She really, really is built for creatives that want to just try being a little bit more consistent. Okay, let's get to reason number 4 that most people fall out of love with content creation, and that is they are doing it all and they are getting nothing back. This one right here, this will kill all momentum that you have. Then no likes, no comments, no saves, no shares, no love. And it gets to that point after like the 5th or 6th post where you have not received anything back, where you're like, dang, why am I doing all this? Why am I putting in all these hours? Here's the truth about this one, the hard love, hard fairy godmother time, right? The number 1 reason that I see content flop is because 99.9% of the content on Instagram is purposeless. And that's okay. Listen, not all content has to have a purpose. We are not content machines, we are not money-making machines, we are human beings. Content is allowed to not have a purpose. It can be done for art, you could create content just because you like it. It can just be for us, it doesn't have to make sense. But listen, if you're a business, if you're a personal brand, social media can help with that. If your goal is to say, book out your calendar, therefore, social media then has a purpose. Its purpose is to help you book out your calendar. If your goal is to earn a living, a full-time living from content creation, then guess what? Your content has to have a purpose. If your wider goals, your big dreams, those big bucket list dreams of yours can be helped, can be aided by social media, then your content probably does or probably should have a purpose. Content doesn't have to have a purpose. If you don't want social media to be that for you, it doesn't have to be that. But I do talk to business owners every single day. That is literally my job at this point. And they always say to me, Kaylee, I'm not booking out my calendar. I'm not getting results. I'm not growing. And the biggest reason that I see is because their content has no purpose or objective. There is no reason behind it. And why does this matter? Why does this particular part matter? I want you to think of your content, and every single piece of content that you post, it can either be an investment or a drain. If your content is not connected to a purpose, then it just becomes another post lost in the feed, lost in the noise of social media. The goal here, the goal of this section is not to make more content. It's to make your content intentional. Your content needs to have a goal. Now for my type A's, you need is a content strategy. And lucky for you guys, I have made you one right here. We did an entire training that went into content buckets and creating a content strategy for you. What I would recommend that you go and do is watch that video over there. I literally break down an entire content strategy for you. But in a nutshell, every single post that you put out should do one of these 3 jobs, just one, not all. I think we as content creators, and we just in 2025, everybody in general has such high expectations for their content. We want it to grow us, to convert for us, to nurture for us, to go viral, to get likes, to get comments, to get saves, to get shares, to get it all. And here's the truth. Hear this, write this down. Your one piece of content should have one aim. And normally it would be one of these 3 buckets. It would either grow you, reach new eyes, get new eyes on your brand and on your business, or it would nurture your current community, the current people who have clicked follow. It would nurture them. It would get them down your sales funnel or in your community in some way. Or it would convert for you, would sell softly. It would get them to click buy, to click follow, to join your community, whatever it is that you want them to do. Conversion is where you make the goal happen. I like to have a fourth content bucket, which is a wildcard content bucket. Again, go over to that video and give it a little watch if you're confused. But your content should do one of these three things, not all, just one. And sometimes you might have a piece of content that crosses over and it might grow you and nurture for you, or it might grow you and convert for you. It might cross over those buckets, but when you're creating it, just have one intention in mind. It's going to really simplify your content. How much water is in these buckets is down to you. For me, I try and post a minimum of 3 times a week. That is kind of my perfect amount of posts that I have going live. So for me, what I try and do is I try and hit one of these content buckets. One growth piece of content, one nurture piece of content, and one conversion piece of content. However, I do try and keep my conversion content pretty low, just because I find for me, I don't really enjoy putting sales content out. My community doesn't enjoy sales content. I don't think anybody enjoys being sold to. It's generally pretty low engaging, but it depends on what my goal is at the time. If I was going through a really high sales period, let's just say I had a sale on, or I was doing my offer party week, I might have a slightly higher percentage of content going out in the conversion content bucket. If I wanted to grow my account, maybe I would have more content going out that's in the growth content bucket. It is down to you to allocate a percentage onto these buckets. A great rule of thumb is 40, 40, 20, or if you have wild cards in there, 40, 40, 10, 10. Again, these percentages are completely down to you and your unique goals. But what we don't want, what we do not want, is for you to look at your feed and be scrolling and be like, oh my God, I have not posted in 2 weeks. Let me grab some B-roll, let me put some text on top of that, and let me push it out. Because what is the reason? That can go viral, that can pop off. For some lucky few, that is what happens. If you want to love content, again, be intentional with what you're posting and give every single piece of content a focus. Is this growing for me? Is this nurturing for me? Is this converting for me? Just ask yourself those 3 questions. Yes, you can also do this in Planoly by labeling your content. What I actually do is I go through and I label it with a N for nurture, a C for conversion, or a G for growth. That will then show up on my feed with those letters. And then I can see very, very visually on my grid what bucket I have going out and how much of that. So if my grid is full of N's, I know I'm doing a lot of nurturing right now, so I'm probably not gonna grow. Okay, once you have your content buckets figured out, then we would go on to your content pillars. Honestly, I think a lot of the problems that crop up when it comes to content creation come from us just having too many decisions to make. And sometimes it's just good to have less decisions to make around this kind of thing. So this is where content buckets and content pillars can really, really play into that. We're gonna come to content pillars in the next section. But for now, all I want you guys to know is what is the intention behind every single post. No intention, no post. Now for my type B girls, the idea of content buckets and content pillars is probably not vibing with you. So for you guys that don't really vibe with this, all I want you to do is every single Monday, try and have an idea of what you are going to film that week. Try and bullet point out, plot out, have a loose idea of what you're going to film when you feel like filming. And all I want you to do is ask yourself 3 simple questions when it comes to every single piece of content. Does this content make people want to follow me? Does this content make people trust me? Does this content make people want to buy from me? If it doesn't hit one of those, if yes is not the answer to at least one of those, you need to rework the idea. Every single post needs a reason to exist, or it's just not worth it. So when you are planning and plotting out your content, I just want you to ask yourself those simple questions before you film it, and then rework the idea if it's not hitting one of those. Perfect. Now we are wrapping up this Lover Era Masterclass with our finale. And I think something that everybody secretly struggles with, that brain fog of what do I even post? You, my friends, have an overconsumption problem. When you spend more time watching than creating, your unique voice, and I spoke about this before in the Speak Now era, but the more time that you spend observing and watching, and the more time that you spend inside your own timeline, the more quiet your own voice becomes, your own ideas become. The more that you consume, the more decision fatigue that we have around our own content, around our own ideas. Because there are so many things things that you want to post, and you've seen so many ideas on your 10-minute, which has now turned into a 40-minute business scrolly scroll. And there are so many algorithms feeding you things. And what happens in this case is we all default to silence. For my Type A queens, this is what we do with our content buckets. We want to introduce some content pillars. Now, to me, content pillars are not things like inspirational, funny, educational. I think those kind of content pillars, they're really overdone and they're incredibly outdated. To me, what I think content pillars are, they are the formats or the styles of content that work for you. Content format, for example, is a thing like a carousel, a get ready with me, a mini mic talking head style video, a signature series. These are all formats. They are all different ways that you can create content, right? Let me show you my brand and my pillars as an example. Let's take my growth content bucket. Now remember, the growth content bucket, this is new eyes finding us. This is new followers, new eyes on our account. So what strategy says right now is on Instagram to grow, carousels and short form reels are the way to pop off. Now that right there, the strategy right there has determined the format. Bucket, your intention is to grow, then the format of content is going to be carousels and very short form video. You might have in your belt some kind of content format that has previously worked really well for you. At the moment, I know this particular format of carousel really works for me. One of these carousels had something like over 1 million views. So I know that format works for me. This format grows for me. So therefore, this format becomes my content pillar. I know if I want to grow, if the intention is to grow, this is the pillar, the style, the format that I would use to achieve that. So when it comes to me actually sitting down and creating content, if I sit down at my desk and I'm like, okay, I want to create some growth content, I know the format. And this might be really restrictive. You might be like, okay, this feels really restrictive, but to me, this gives me some direction and a kind of a road to go down. There is so much creativity that you could have with a 6-second reel. There's so much that you could do within that format. Don't let your creativity go on choosing the format. Let your creativity go on figuring out what you want the format to look like. The format, that just gives you structure and a starting off point. If you also have to think of, okay, so I want to grow, how do I do that? How do I present that? Do I do a reel? Do I do a carousel? Like if you're thinking of that too, that's analysis paralysis. Let me give you another example. So my nurturing content. Nurturing content is designed to warm up and to nurture your current audience. My nurturing content is always longer in form. So I know Instagram isn't going to necessarily push that out, but my current followers are going to really enjoy it. So some of my longer form formats that work for me are my signature series, my tiny mic talking head videos, my what to post videos. Some of yours might be get ready with me, vlogs, green screen content. The pillar is the format. The topic, that's up to you. That's the part you should have creativity with, not the format. And if your brain is already over here trying to figure out what the format's going to be, that's the first hurdle that you're going to get stuck at. But if you already know the format, you get to do the fun stuff. So now, instead of asking, what do I post? You should be asking, what bucket do I want to pull from today? And what format do I want to draw from? I think honestly this works for both type A and type B because it's not too strategic and it draws a lot from intuition. What you don't need and what we all don't need is more inspiration. You don't really need more ideas. You just need a bucket and a pillar. And the occasional wild card to keep you spicy. Okay, phew, that was a long one, but how are we feeling? Do we feel a little bit more in love with content creation again? Thank you so much for watching. This was another long one. I promise they'll start getting shorter again. I just wanted to say a really big thank you for supporting the channel. I have noticed we have started working with some brand partners, and honestly, it's down to you guys. This ain't me. That is 100% down to you guys who support the channel, who leave me comments. I just want to say a big thank you to you guys because so many of you have been championing these brand partnerships, and honestly, it feels amazing to be paid now somehow to create these videos for you. Again, if you want to sign up to Planoly, I wholeheartedly recommend them. I've been using them for years, and I promise, my oath to you guys is we will not become a sellout. I won't be recommending anything that I haven't tried myself or used myself or spent my good earned money on myself. So rest assured, I'm pretty sure you're going to love Planoly. I will leave my code right here for you guys, as well as in the description below. Next week is folklore. Now, these two next eras we were not a fan of, but I know they're considered some of her best. Stay tuned for that one. I hope you're going to love it. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of the Lover era and what you thought of this video, what your main takeaway was, and what era, because we still have like 5-6 eras left. So what era you are most looking forward to that we have coming up. I honestly do not know what I'm going to do come January. I've so enjoyed decide like the outfits and the makeup. Should we do a little makeup check? Anyway, please subscribe if you haven't already. We've got so much more coming up on the Eras Tour Kaylee's version. And if you've already done that, well, I will catch you back here next week. Bye guys.